Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Darian Smith. And Darian, we get to break down the UAB 2022 offense on today's episode. Are you excited about talking about this new offense, buddy?
Yeah, brother. Sound like we got a loaded pod for y'all today. I'm excited about this one.
Definitely. And, hey, before we get started with that, we've got a very big announcement for you guys. Drum roll, please. There we go. Guys, we've had a bunch of people ask about it, but we are excited to announce that we are now going to sell Blazer Victory Podcast merch. So right now, you can go on storefrontier.com/blazerpod, and I'll put the link in the episode description where you can just click the link and go straight to the website. But we've got shirts, hoodies, and long sleeve shirts ready to roll. And, you know, we would encourage you, if you can, go ahead as soon as possible and place that order, because it can take up to 2 weeks for just, you know, kind of getting it ready and shipping and all and whatnot with this site. But we are so excited to finally get this out to all of you guys. And, you know, it helps support us. You know, we're not making all the money from the sale. We decided to use this website just so we don't have to handle it all. So, you know, you'll just put the order in, Store Frontier will handle it, and they'll ship it directly to you. But guys, we are just so excited to finally put this in your hands. So definitely go to this website and check us out.
So, John, I just thought, right, a lot of school is just starting up.
Oh, yeah.
How cool would your kid be? Just swagged out in some Blazer pie, you know. They're gonna be the coolest kids at school with their Blazer pod hoodies or their shirts. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, where did you get that from?" You need to get that for your kids. I promise it'll make them the coolest kids at school.
I'm telling you, what are the youngins saying now? You know, they got that drip. They got the drip.
Oh, hey, we sound so old. Hey, what are the youngins saying right now? Got that drip.
I'm telling you, but guys, yeah, you got to go ahead and place that order. You know, as Darren just mentioned, school's starting back. You know, we've got a football game here in Protective in less than a month coming up September 1st. So go ahead and place your order and get a Blazer Victory Podcast shirt or hoodie, so you'll get it in time for the Alabama A&M game.
Yes, sir.
But also, Darren, we've got some other news, buddy. How about some more big-time recruit commits here on the South Side? And I believe that first one that we're going to talk about, I think you called it on last episode. You want to go ahead and get into that?
Yeah, so we're talking about Emmanuel Waller, big-time 4-star DN. He's 4-star on Rivals from out of Oak Mountain.
Yes.
He was dropping hints. You could kind of tell that UAB was the move. But I really wanted to, John, I just really want to get down into his game on what I saw on film.
Yeah. What really pops off? Yeah. What pops off?
Yeah. So what makes him into this 4-star? Like what's deserving of that? So what I saw, well, he's about 6'4", 250. He has good size. It's good size, but we're used to seeing we're used to seeing those big giant guys that we have on the edge, you know.
Right.
So it's not elite size. So it's not it's not the size. After looking at the film, I was like, okay, he has decent speed, but it's not elite speed, right? So I'm wondering, you know, you say, you know, most of the time if you're 4-star, 5-star, it has to be like raw athleticism. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
This guy is so technically sound. For a guy that's in high school. He has a high motor. He is very violent with his hands. He just knows how to play football. You can tell his IQ is very high. A lot of times on defense, it's almost like a running joke and be like, yeah, you can put a dumb guy out there at defensive end. Just tell him to go after the quarterback. But if you have a guy that's smart, that know how to play football, that know how to contain, that know how to play angles, that know how to shoot his hands. I saw some of not only did I watch some of his game film, I saw some film of him in camp.
Mm-hmm.
And his hands, I encourage anybody to go check it out. His hands are very good. He's a guy that if he plays his cards right, I could envision him contributing right away. Because of his skill set already at this age so early can get him on the field, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's what I was going to mention too. It really, from what you were saying, it sounds like this is a guy that can come in almost right away and go ahead and contribute on the defensive line for UAB. And I did just want to throw something else in for those that did not know. Emmanuel Waller was previously committed to BYU. I guess he watched that the bowl game previously and said, "Nah, I can't roll with them."
Yeah, like, hold on, I'm on the wrong time. I'm on the wrong side, man.
Oh yes, you love to see it. I mean, but this seriously, guys, this is a huge get for Bryant Vincent and UAB because I mean, this is a guy that had a bunch of offers. Like I just said, he was previously committed to BYU. I mean, he had he was lined up to go visit Alabama, a lot of high P5 schools. And he just, he said he fell in love with the South Side, with what Coach Vincent has going. And he wanted to stay home and be, I believe his Twitter graphic, it said hometown hero. And that's kind of exactly, what he's trying to be with UAB. Right. So definitely excited to get him on the South Side coming up. But other than him, we had two other big commits. Darren, the second one I want to get into, who's also a defensive lineman, was Michael Towner Jr. From Vigor High School. I mean, this is a guy who, kind of like Waller. He seems like he can come in right away. He's the reigning 4A lineman of the year in the state of Alabama. This is a guy that had major offers from, major schools like, UCF, Maryland, even Coastal, FAU, but plenty others. But he's also decided to, kind of stay on the South Side. So that's another big get for UAB.
Right. Yeah. Looking at his film, it's another one of those guys with decent size. He's 6'2", 245. He comes off the edge. Mm-hmm. So what makes him what is it that makes him this highly touted guy? Well, one thing that I like about him and Waller are things that you must have. He has one on defense. You have to have, especially on that line, that high motor. Mm-hmm. Both of those guys had high motors. Both of those guys were violent. They are violent at the point of attack. But the difference between Towner and Waller, they play differently. Waller has great speed. Mm-hmm. He is a blazer. He is a guy that kind of fit. Right. He's a blazer. Okay. It's kind of a dad joke thing. But anyway, but yeah, he is very fast, quick twitch type of player. It gets up and down the line. He can get in the backfield fast. This dude has the raw talent. He has the raw ability, but he also has the IQ, the same as Waller. So in a couple of plays, more than usual, I'm like, how many interceptions did this guy get?
Right.
As a defensive end, he was dropping back in coverage and making some athletic plays and taking them to the crib. Mm-hmm. Like the dude is fast. I think I read his huddle. I guess he used to play running back. So I mean, and so the thing is, I think he can contribute as well. The only thing is a difference between him and Waller with their hands. Yeah. Waller has a plethora of moves. Like, it's impressive to see somebody so young going into their senior year, and they have so many moves and know how to utilize their hands. Towner relies on raw ability, and he has that. But a lot of it was just violent. I'm gonna push you back. I'm gonna run around you, and I can think I'm gonna drop back. I'm gonna think it through. I'm gonna hit you hard. I'm gonna throw you down. Mm-hmm. But he has all of the ability. And I know once he gets with Coach Kyle Tatum, I know Coach Tatum. Coach Tatum gonna see all that ability in that man. He gonna coach him up. And if hopefully he's one of the guys that can get in early. Man, if he learn those moves, he get it down. This dude. What I left watching those two on film, what I left away with is like, damn, we're gonna be really good on the bookends in the future, because these dudes are both guys I'm very high on and very excited about.
And also, too, Darren, with the redshirt rule, too, like, you can get these guys in and they can play up to 4 games, too. Just, go and get them on the field, get some real game time experience, and just hold that redshirt, and give them, 4 more years. So I definitely see both of those guys being able to contribute, almost right away. Now, looking on the other side of the ball, UAB did get a QB commitment. Quarterback Jackson Potter from California, Santa Margarita High School. I mean, this guy Darren. He's 6'5". He plays he plays really tough competition out there, in California, in that region where they play it. Like, year in and year out, he's seeing some of the top defenses in the country. And you look at just last year, he threw for almost 3,000 yards and over 23 touchdowns as a junior. I mean, this is a big get for UAB as well on the offensive side of the ball.
It is a very big get. I think Jackson has a lot of potential. Yep. What I like about him is his pocket manipulation. So you can tell that he trains a lot. He get the snap. His step back looks really great. It look like somebody on a training video camp. And then he's stepping up every time. So if you look at a lot of high school quarterbacks, they have no pocket awareness. They kind of just there, it's kind of very Bush League. But this dude looks like a pro. He looks
legit, man.
Right. And he has, the other thing that popped on film to me was his accuracy. Yes. He's very accurate when he passes. He can throw it on the money. So the things that I'm looking at now, I'm just kind of wondering I was wondering about how is his arm strength? Because if you look at the film of, like, say, Dylan Hopkins when Dylan came out, one thing that Dylan had was this quick release, and he can put some zip on the ball. No matter what distance we're talking about. Jackson does not have that same zip, but if you look at quarterbacks like Drew Brees or Peyton Manning, I know this is like, I'm not comparing him to that, but
yeah,
as just a visual, those guys didn't have the strongest of arms. A lot of times they would say Peyton Manning looked like he was throwing ducks, and they was getting right there. It doesn't matter because he had his anticipation
and also too, Darren,
and the accuracy.
On the other side, though, like, you see these guys that have all the arm strength in the world, but if you can't be accurate, then you're not gonna.
What does it matter?
Exactly. So.
What does it matter if you can throw the ball 200 yards and you throwing it all the way to China somewhere? Like, it doesn't matter. This guy, he pinpoints a lot. Like, a lot of his passes, long balls, intermediate, and he showed in different clips to where he can pick apart zone.
Yes.
He can do different. Like, it doesn't matter. I think the competition out there, like you brought up earlier, is training him.
Yes.
To be ready. So if he can get his decision making, if he can come in and he can really work on his decision making, and he can just spend some time like getting bigger, bulking up, I think he reminds me of Brian Ellis. I played with Brian Ellis, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Brian was, now to Jackson's credit, and this is my boy Brian. Brian was the slowest dude. Jackson is not that slow.
Right.
but shout out Brian. I love you, man. But Brian could put the ball anywhere, anytime, any day. So it didn't matter. And he knew how to manipulate the pocket. That's all you need to know how to do. And Jackson has that potential.
Definitely. And shout out to you right quick to Brian Ellis. I'll never forget that Troy game. Hey, that 99-yard drive, down that touchdown at the end.
Oh, yeah. My boy. Yeah. He orchestrated that. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, another thing too, like, he's still got another year of high school. And after that, bring him in UAB weight room, get him right. I mean, hey, we can get that arm strength increased a little bit too. So, I mean, I really like the potential with Potter, and two, with these three guys, Darian, I love that they're going ahead and committing before going into their senior season in high school.
Exactly.
So it's huge for UAB as a program for these guys to say, hey, I'm sure I'll get other offers or whatever, but I'm committing to you guys before I head into my senior season, so I don't have to worry about any of that outside noise. I know I want to be a Blazer, so let's just go ahead. Hey, I'm 100%, committed with UAB. So, and hey, I think there might be a couple more guys. I don't know this week, but at least in the next couple weeks, we might have a couple more commits.
I think that potential is there. Just like kind of reading the tea leaves on Twitter, and then also just with those guys committing so early. What it does for like momentum, You know,
Yes.
you got other kids looking and saying, "Oh, I kind of want to be a part of that. We can make this class the best class, and we can take it to another level." So it's huge. It's really huge for us.
Definitely. Well, all right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into discussing this 2022 UAB offense. And I guess before we get into position by position group discussion, Darren, let's just talk about Darren Henshaw and kind of what we see this 2022 offense looking like in general.
Yeah.
Now, we do know 100% sure that Bryant Vincent will be calling the plays this year. Were you surprised by that? Honestly, I wasn't surprised with him saying that he's going to call the plays.
No, I'm not surprised, but I am kind of I do wonder how this is going to work since he's the head coach as well.
True.
I was wondering just how, you know, and Henshaw is the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So what exactly is in Henshaw's role in this? Because most of the time it's kind of opposite around. So, but I was just wondering, is he going to be the architect of the offense?
I think he, of course, Vincent's still going to call the plays, but I really do think that Henshaw is going to have a lot of a big voice in this offense. You know, I still foresee Bryant Vincent running that outside zone. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, we've got the guys in the backfield to run the ball all day long on most of the teams that we play. So that is still going to be a big part of this offense going forward for UAB. But I mean, with Henshaw having such, you know, a long coaching history at many different schools, many different leagues, I mean, he's been around and he's seen great offenses everywhere that he's been in. So you got to think that Henshaw is going to be able to have some say of, you know, leading into the game about like scouting, like what he, you know, would like to see run on the offense. Right. So I don't know, but obviously I do think they're still going to run outside zone a lot. They're still going to pop it inside zone off of that, which they did a lot these last few years since Vincent has been there. And I get it. You know, with the outside zone, you're trying to stretch the defense sideline to sideline, and when they get too spread out, you pop it inside. I mean, it sounds basic, but it's worked, and
it's effective.
It's effective, exactly. And to be able to have that, you've really got to have really good running backs, which UAB does, but you also have to have a really good, you know, kind of elite offensive line. And, you know, we'll get into it a little bit, but I think UAB has an elite offensive line, you know, heading into this season, if not the best in the Conference USA for sure.
Right, exactly. So what I am from just going back and seeing with Henshaw is I think he'll mix it up. So one thing that I was able to see is like he uses his personnel really well.
Yes.
So it's you know, going back to Kentucky, and I know that he was co-coordinator with Eddie Graham in Cincinnati and Kentucky, and, you know, places like that. So he's not the main guy, but he had a lot of say so. Right. He was co-coordinator. So like, you know, in Kentucky, in certain teams, they had Benny Snell. Mm-hmm. They had a good offensive line, but they had a running quarterback in Terry Wilson. So of course they didn't throw the ball downfield a lot and do all this. They focused, and their main objective was to get them in space.
Yes.
How can we utilize them the best? Because that was the strength of the team. It was a no-brainer. But then if you and it was a lot of, you know, different sets. It could be, you know, they'll use the spread shotgun, they'll use the pistol sets. Like almost a lot of what we see here in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. But then if you look at them in Cincinnati, they had a different personnel. They had like Gunnar Kiel at quarterback, and they had a lot of weapons. So you will see 5 wide, 4 wide. You will see them mixed up diamond formations. They were all over the field. So and then you will see all different types of passes, downfield seams. You will see screen passes, intermediate, post corner. You'll see a whole bunch of different types. So what excited me was the variety he brings, and how sometimes I felt like with our UAB offense, like we alluded to it last week, you said it, we got predictable.
Yep.
You could tell. All right, here we go. Run here, play action, try to go over top. It was kind of like, you know, like, all right, you know, like, can we mix it up a little bit? And we're not, listen, that's me being an armchair coordinator. Like, I didn't look at the game plan, so I know, you know, Vince and them knew more than I did. But only thing that I'm excited about is the potential to be more open, just more, what's the word, democratic in the offense, So I'm excited because of all of the weapons and because of that O-line we have.
Yes, definitely. And also, too, people forget that, Henshaw, he also coached at Georgia Southern, with the triple option. So he has seen so many different types of
everything.
Yeah. And then going back to UCF with he's spreading around at UCF, too.
Right.
Gus Malzahn. So he has seen pretty much all the offenses out there, I guess, other than the run and shoot. But I mean, this is a guy, like you just mentioned, Darren, that I think is going to be great for this offense. Speaking of Henshaw, but he just seems that he's able to be really adaptable and just be very adaptable with his teams. And that's why I think, hey, he's not going to be calling the plays on Saturdays, but I think he will be able to get the guys ready each week in and week out, be able to scout well, let Vincent know what type of play calls to call other than the outside zone. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and reading the article from Steve Irvine, 1819 News, he did a deep dive about on Henshaw and how I like how Vincent brought Henshaw in. It was like, no, we're gonna meet the players. It's not about X's and O's. We're gonna get in here. We're gonna get to know these guys, their families, what they like, what makes them tick. I thought that was so, as me being a former player, I thought that was so important and such a genius move, because you're going to get way more out of a kid when he knows that you really want more out of his life, not just what he can do for you, but that you care about him as a kid,
right.
And that's what we like to see as players. So I think Vincent has a good pulse of the team, and I think Henshaw will follow effortlessly behind his lead.
Definitely agree. Well, let's go ahead and start to get in these position group discussions, and why not start with the big nasties up front with this offensive line, Darren?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we got to start there. Not just because you're a former center. No.
Oh yeah, baby. Let's give the big nasties a hand, baby. Yeah.
Whoop whoop. Yeah, but hey, these guys. I mean, you look. Will Reichard at center. You've got Matthew Treearn at left guard. You've got Sidney Wells back, Kadeem Telford. You've got some guys back. I guess the only position that kind of seems to me like it might be up for grabs would be maybe one of those tackle spots.
Right.
I don't know if it'll go to either Quincy McGee or Trey Badowski, or even Eli Ritchie is a redshirt freshman coming in 6'5", 300 pounds. I mean, this is a guy that played 3 games last year. I mean, he's very serviceable to kind of plug and play, or Quez Yates. But let's kind of talk about this offensive line. Obviously, I think, Darren, you feel the same way that I do, that this should be the best, or at the top of Conference USA at least, offensive line. I think it's probably one of the best in the G5 altogether. But one thing I wanted to talk with you about, and this is just after the first week of fall camp, but we've been reading and seeing reports of where they've kind of been moving some guys around, like let's take Sidney Wells, for instance. Like, you would think he would just be a natural at one of those guard positions, but they've been moving him over to play some right tackle. Can you tell the listeners? It seems obvious.
I think they moved him into guard.
Into guard. That's right. Yeah, from tackle to guard. Yeah,
right,
sorry, I messed that up. But can you tell the listeners? I mean, it seems obvious that you want all the offensive linemen to be able to rotate if needed in case of injuries or something. But can you tell the listeners about why they do that, especially during fall camp, for the offensive line to move them around?
Because it's important to be versatile. Injuries happen. Happen. That's part of the game. And also for scouts, when you go to the next level, a coach is really looking out for you if he's showing your versatility. That is super important. I learned that the hard way. I only played center, and I could play other positions, but I didn't have the size. But they told me, they'll tell you straight up, man, the more positions you can play, the more playable you are. Because if a guy go down, they don't have to waste a roster spot or anything on having to, a need to feel this. You're the guy that can feel it all. And then if you can show and have that confidence, that's important. But it's just really important on your own team because you don't know who's going to go down and what kind of critical moment. So they may need your raw talent. If you can plug and play and have that talent at any position, and you can keep it together like it does. It's not like you don't know what's going on.
Right.
They can have confidence that you at right tackle and at left guard.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Guess what? You're just going to be the guy to fill in. If you can be, or maybe you're starting at right tackle and you can play other positions. Somebody go down, you're the guy that can move because you have a backup that's only good at right tackle. Right? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So you're the guy that can help. You're the one that's malleable, and that's very valuable in today's game.
Okay, great. And I mean, it does hurt, losing Kobe Ragland, Andrew Smith, and Jacoby Jones. And going back to last year, with Will Reichert at center, Andrew Smith was a guy that had played center before too. So
right.
I mean, how will Reichert do without Andrew Smith out there? With Andrew Smith, playing center before, he was able to kind of help Reichert out a little bit, and with how the defense was lining up in front. But I'm so excited to see what these guys do, and also just hearing, and I think Steve Irvine tweeted this as well, but just hearing how Sidney Wells is ready to get out there, like he's got a point to prove, for not playing the whole year last year. Yeah,
correct.
So I'm excited about this line.
And then with Will, with Reichert, our play center. Honestly, I've been waiting for him to be the guy because
mm-hmm.
I go out there and I like to look at the line, because I'm one of them.
Right.
Man, he plays with great leverage. He's extra quick. He's not the biggest guy, but I've never seen him get blew off the ball because he knows how to play the game. And I saw in the article, I think this one was, I don't know if this was by Steve Irvine or by Evan Dudley of AL.com. They both do great jobs. I don't know. They call him the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
They say why? Because he runs the show. He knows what's going on, and the way that he plays, he shows it. There's so much confidence. Like I can feel it being the center. It's like he knows where to go, and he goes there with extra conviction. And it's with he plays very fast. He just know how to play as a center. So I've been waiting for him to be like full time and be the guy. And Sidney Wells to me has always been more of a guard. If you look, you can look at the difference between him and Telford and Kobe Ragland. Those guys had quicker feet. They were a little lighter, a little leaner. They have that. Sidney is bigger. I was wondering, it was like, man, if we can get him inside, he just seems like more of a bruiser on the inside. And Badowski and McGee, those guys played. Those guys got good time. And just seeing them last year, I was like, man, these dudes are fine at tackle.
Mm-hmm.
These dudes are fine. And then we have a bunch of JUCO guys as well. And if you looked at the film on like Quez Yates, you mentioned him earlier. Mm-hmm. Them dudes get after it. They are not slouch. And I was in the weight room and I was by Eli Ritchie. I saw his film too. The dude is as big as they say he is. I was like, Jesus Christ. And this was last year.
Right. I'm telling you, man. Yeah, he's listed, I think, at 6'5", 300. He might be 6'5", 325 or something like that.
Man, listen, he's bigger. He is bigger than that. Trust me.
Yes. Well, excited to see, this offensive line really deep. But what also makes this line look good is those running backs behind them. So let's kind of go ahead and discuss these running backs. And hey, if you don't know the name, I don't know what you've been doing these last couple of years, but Debo is back. Dwayne McBride is a junior, as I listed on the official depth chart. He's back, and he really caught on late in that 2021 season. Like that back half of last year, like he was just a man on a mission. He's on the Adult Walker preseason watch list. Last year, he carried the ball officially 47 times for 1,371 and 13 touchdowns. Had 4 touchdowns and 210 yards against Louisiana Tech. And also, he rushed for over 100 yards in the 5 last games. And really or 5 of the, I think, 7 last games of the year. But you really look at the UTEP and the Rice game where he got hurt in both of those games. I mean, he really should have got over 100 in both of those games as well. But
yes.
I mean, is there anything else to say about Debo? Like,
I mean, not really. I mean, y'all. I mean, the dude is like a man child. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Like he can pull away from you. He can run up you. He's very quick twitch to be his size. I mean, in my opinion, he's an NFL running back.
Yes, he is.
Yes,
he is.
But there's not much to say on that. I mean, with this offensive line and his talent, I expect I know Henshaw has to be grinning.
Oh yeah,
licking his chops. There's so much you can do there.
He's got to be grinning too. That guy behind him, Jermaine Brown, Skull. He's a junior as well. Hey, I think Darren. Obviously Debo's the number one guy, and he's going to get his yards, get his touchdowns this year. But I think Jermaine Brown is going to be the guy to watch for on this 2022 UAB offense. Like
you think he's due? You think he's due for it?
He's due. I think this is going to be his year. Like I still, Debo's going to be number one, but Skull is going to show out this year. Like reports off of the first week of camp, like they say that he looks great. He's already, he's in form already. Like he looks
right.
He's ready. And just speaking of that too, he was actually placed on the Paul Horn award watch list, which folks that don't know that goes out to the country's most versatile player, because he'll be returning kicks as well. But I really look forward to seeing big things out of Jermaine Brown this year. Even last year, he still had a hell of a season last year. He had over 1,000 yards, all-purpose yards. That's combining returning kicks, rushing, and receiving. But you look at that UTEP game when Debo got hurt. I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. Like Skull is a proven guy behind Debo to just continue carrying toting the rock. Like you got Debo having to come out and get a breather, and here comes Skull in here. Yeah, he may not be the bruiser that Debo is, but I'm telling you, man, Skull ain't afraid to kind of lean in and run you over.
Yeah, to be his size, to be like this shifty, like that's his thing. Like he has this dead leg move that he put on you, and he has this hezzy. It's almost like watching AI. Yeah, basketball. It's like he gonna cross you over. Like the dude, I hated playing players like when I used to play defense. I hated players like that because they tire you out so much. But yeah, like to be his size and be known as a quote unquote scat back, I think this year is gonna be big for him, like you said, because he's not afraid to put that shoulder. He'll put that head down and lean into you, especially when it's come to like in the goal line when it's time to get a touchdown. You don't expect that from him, and he can do it. He's not scared. He plays with a lot of fire, a lot of passion. I mean, the guy is gonna return kicks. He's gonna get out in space. He's gonna catch screens and catch flare passes. He's gonna be useful on spread zone and zone reads. Like he is very useful and all purpose. I think they balance each other perfectly.
And also too, like fall camp last year before the 2021 season, like they were really trying to move Skull over to be more of a slot guy a lot of times. But with injuries, of course, he had to move back into that running back role. But, I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, if you see him and Debo out on the field, a couple of times with both of them on there, like kind of throw him into the slot and just, because he's
I think that'll be scary. I think that's scary.
Mm-hmm. And, also, we talk a lot about Debo and Skull, but in my opinion, there's a couple guys behind them that can also play running back. Especially coming after this, first week of fall camp, we have been hearing from people telling us AJ Gates. Like, this is a guy, he's a redshirt junior. He's a transfer from Alabama, played high school ball at Mountain Brook. But this is a guy that especially Bryant Vincent seems really excited about. So, can he be that third guy that come in, every so often and give the other 2 guys a reliever, relieve them? I think so. Because, this guy, from all reports that I've heard, he looks really good and he looks ready to roll.
Yeah, it seemed like it. It seemed like I've heard Steve Irvine say something. Mm-hmm. I've heard Evan Dudley say something. Then I've seen the official UAB Twitter. They post their notes and, they game pad. Like, I'm looking at that. I'm like, AJ Gates. I'm like, okay, I get it. This dude is making plays in camp. He's showing something out there. He's making his case. So I'm excited to see. So when I saw the games he played, he had the shiftiness. He kind of reminded you of Skull,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Skull was a little bit more stronger. So what I mean to say is, it seems like he went down a little easier than Skull did.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it seems like he's not going down no more.
Yes,
like.
From reports, he's been very elusive, so that's great to see. But Darren, I think there's two other guys even behind Gates that could contribute some point this season. I mean, you've got Zeus Perriman, the redshirt junior coming in from East Mississippi, had a heck of a spring game during the spring, and had a heck of a spring too. He was really, raw. I mean, but he was running people over in the spring game. The only negative that, we've heard coming out of camp so far is that he's just not consistent at pass protection, which with this offense, if you're going to run play action, hey, you've got to, the backs are going to have to pick up somebody. So
yeah, you got to. It's super important. And as an offensive lineman, I'm telling you, like you need to. So when you go up, you call out your protection or whatever, and then running back needs to hear. So he plays off of your protection. One thing that I'm telling you that'll piss an offensive lineman off, and a tight end, if y'all got y'all dudes locked up, y'all got them locked up. Oh man, we did such an awesome job, and you got a damn running back. That will definitely catch ire. So that's important, and that's something that's fixable.
Yes, it is.
Just give time, But as far as letting him running that rock, come on now.
I mean, he's got the name Zeus. Come on now.
Yeah, come on now, man. Like the dude is built like a Greek god like Zeus, and he's running and he is running with a lot of fire, a lot of ill will. He's trying to, and he has a great mixture of a blend of size, speed, and he'll run you over. He's a grown man type of, kind of in that Debo. I think Debo has at this point right now, Debo has better vision. If Zeus he takes time, he can develop that.
Definitely. And there's one more guy in the running back room that I want to talk about, and that's Lee Witherspoon. I mean, and this was the guy, that unfortunately got hurt late in fall camp last year, and had to miss the whole 2021 season. But this is a guy, he's back ready. He seems that he's back almost 100%, if not 100%. So this is a guy that's wanting to get out there and prove a lot of doubters wrong. He's originally a transfer from Mississippi State. So I mean, he
was big time coming out of high school.
Yeah,
he was a big time player. So I don't downplay the get that him coming over to UAB. I hate that he got hurt, but just reading and seeing that how he's bouncing back and responding, how Vincent called it out, it seems like he's getting back to this track, back on his track, that reaching the potential he can get to. So I mean, you look and we have we're 5 deep at running back.
Yes,
man, come on, man.
I'm telling you, man. Well, let's go ahead and talk about another deep unit, and this seems kind of weird saying, but the quarterback room is deep for pretty much the first time I think I've ever said that, to be honest.
Right.
But I mean, it all starts with Dylan Hopkins, redshirt junior. I mean, the guy basically won the team over last year, I think. I mean, especially in that bowl game against BYU, sick, running a fever right before leading up to the game, and still coming in there and having a near perfect game, 19 of 23 for almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Right.
While you're sick. I mean, come on,
man. Yeah. Okay, Michael Jordan flu game. All right.
Exactly. Yeah, he did the Michael Jordan flu game. But I mean, this is a guy, like, I remember talking with Steve, early on when he first started. Like, he was still doing well, but he just didn't seem comfortable. Now, later we would find out that he was dealing with, an injury the whole year with his non-throwing shoulder. But as the year got on, he looked really more comfortable in the pocket. You didn't see him like, oh man, I remember the Liberty game. It's just like he was taking too long to get rid of the ball. But after that game, man, I think something just flipped on, and he was really good throughout the rest of the season. And now that he's knock on wood, 100% now that he's had surgery on the non-throwing shoulder. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does this year.
I am too, man. Dylan Hopkins has always been my guy.
Yeah.
Like, So I remember just going back when I was super excited when we first got him because his release, he has this very quick release, kind of like think of like Aaron Rodgers, that really quick release, and he has this zip on the ball, like he's accurate with it. So I'm like, man, this dude has a lot of potential. You don't see that, and he can move, he can run some. I think this year, I think he'll have a big year because he shouldn't be dealing with nagging injuries. He seems 100% healthy, and he doesn't have a controversy behind him. Like it's not a QB conversation going on finally.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And also too, Darren, I'll never forget being in Neyland Stadium in 2019 playing Tennessee, and he came off the bench, and that's really the first time we saw him, and he scored that touchdown, and I was like, okay, this guy's going to be special.
Oh yeah.
No, we're not going to talk about that Southern Miss game the next week, but I mean. But you saw something in him. You saw something in him, back in his Maryville days in Tennessee. And I'm just so excited to see what he does this year. And I do think he just improves even more, especially now that he took care of that shoulder. But let's talk.
And especially since I was going to segue for you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Especially because he's going to have Jacob Zeno pushing him.
Yes.
And we all that dude ain't competition, baby. Competition. And so we all know Zeno is not a slouch.
No, he's not. And that's what, like, when we got the Zeno in from Baylor, the outside was like, okay, Zeno's going to be UAB starter day one, right? And we were like, no, I mean, we still got Dylan Hopkins. But like you just said, competition makes everyone better. And it's just been 1 week of camp, but both of those guys, and also, and I need to say this too, it's been first week of camp. They really only put the pads on one day, and that was on Saturday. But still, like, from what we hear, like, both of these guys are on. Like, and I mean, you look at Zeno, very talented guy coming into Baylor, very strong arm, very accurate, and also too, Darren, Dylan had to sit out the whole spring, and Zeno kind of came in and had the whole spring, kind of to himself. So, But I don't know. I think from what we've seen, so far and heard so far out of the camp, I think Dylan's, he just looks better. Like he knows that, hey, if he messes up, Zeno's right there and going to take it from him. So competition just brings the best out of both guys.
Right, and I like seeing the article that Steve had posted. It was saying that he was they was interviewing, they was talking about competition with Dylan and his father Archie. And he was saying they love it, they embrace it, and man, that fired me up. Like that's what you want. That's what you want. It's like, all right, you're gonna bring this transfer in. He's talented. I'm not taking that away from him, but I'm him. I'm really him. I'm that guy. You saw what I did last year. I'm only getting better, right? So it's like a moment of like a declaration of like, hey, I have arrived, and I'm the guy that's gonna lead this team and to a conference championship, and I'm gonna lead us to being ranked. I think Dylan has the potential to do that, and I think with him being 100% healthy, having all of that time to kind of just dive into the playbook, to get comfortable, and not have you always had the thing with Tyler. Yeah. It seems like now it is his team until. I know Jacob is good. Like Zeno is good. Don't get me wrong, but it feels as if it's like, hey, it's Dylan, it's your team, unless something happens to you.
I agree 100%. And if something does happen, which knock on wood, we don't want it to happen, but if it does, you've got a very talented guy right behind him. That's ready to go right away with Zeno. So that is great to have. This year. And hey, and don't sleep on Bryson Lucero. I mean, that guy, he's a redshirt junior. They said that he's improved recently. So, don't forget about him. And Damon Stewart, from East Mississippi. I mean, I think this guy, I don't know if he'll be a starting quarterback, but we've got to, I think Steve said this. I mean, we've got to find a way to get him on the field, like put him into some packages somehow, like whether it's, like a Wildcat or something. This guy is tough to bring down. He's very shifty, very elusive. Like, we've got to find a way to just get him into some packages somehow on the field.
It's like 3 to 5 touches a game, maybe goal line, maybe fake run, pass over the top. Like it's ways to get them. And then I think we probably have one of the best third string quarterbacks in college because Bryson Lucero, he played well for us when he had to at a young age. You know, he didn't have it all put together for decision making wise, but the guy has a cannon. The guy is competitive and he can sling it. So I feel like you said this is like the deepest quarterback room we've had. Like you can feel comfortable going down. Like if we had a Southern Miss injury type year, you know.
Well, no, I don't know if we want to go 8 deep now.
But I feel like at least we have more able bodies. Even going all the way down like to Dylan. How exactly is it? Mail
well, okay, no.
I don't want to say it wrong.
Well, no. What Dylan Marotra reports are that he has not been at camp yet. So I don't know what's going on there. So I wasn't even gonna. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why. I mean, maybe it's like maybe he's just sick or something. But I do not know. But yeah, he has not reported. At least through Friday. I don't know if he appeared Saturday, but at least through Friday, he has not been at camp yet. And that's a guy out of Louisiana that I was really high on too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he showed some
dual threat capabilities, but he still needed to develop.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, but hey, take him away. You've got Dylan, Jacob, Bryson, and Damon. I mean, that's 4 guys right there that you feel comfortable with. Now Damon, obviously like he's going to be, kind of a project if he wants to be, a number 1 guy, which I mean, I'm not saying he can't be. He can, because Damon Stewart, he proved at East Mississippi. He had some great runs there, great throws there, and he's already proven that he's very elusive so far in this camp since he's gotten to UAB. And then in spring, he did pretty well.
Right.
But you really feel confident, at least with the top 2 guys, with Dylan Hopkins and Jacob Zeno, that both of those guys can help lead this team to another Conference USA championship.
I feel confident with Bryson Lucero, baby.
Hey, me too. Yeah. Hey, I'll never forget that South Alabama game. Me and Steve, after we saw that game, we were like, "Holy cow, man! This is our guy." We've been waiting for him.
Yeah.
We know Tyler's hurt, but hey, just keep Lucero in. And then after that, I mean, he was young. I mean, those defenses, they shift the safeties around, so they kind of picked him off a bit, Louisiana especially. But hey, yeah, I'm confident with Lucero because he's another guy, that we've said he looks good so far in fall camp, but he looked good in the spring, and he looked good in the spring game that I was able to see. So hey, yeah, I'm with you. The 3 guys, we'll go Hopkins, Zeno, and Lucero.
Right, and then we'll see how they utilize those weapons they have.
Hey, well, let's go ahead and get into those weapons, man. Get into those wide receivers. And this is what Bryant Vincent said on air on a radio show, that this is his most talented group of wide receivers that he's ever had at UAB.
Really? I did not catch that. You just brought something new to me. I did not know.
Yes, and honestly, man, I'm with him because, I mean, obviously you got Trey Shropshire, who's your deep threat. He led the nation in yards per catch last year, 7 TDs last year, and those 2 big ones against UTSA. But I guess my question with Shropshire is, can he kind of take that next step? Like, obviously he's going to be the deep threat guy, but, you kind of go back to, and I hate to bring up the Liberty game, but there was at least 1 or 2 passes that, that he dropped, that especially one, it was a deep ball that he just wide open just dropped that would have been a touchdown.
I got a good story about that, man.
Oh, hey, tell us.
So that game, I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that no more. When you want to know why?
Why's that?
I was in the crowd that game. I was sitting right next to his mama.
Oh, okay.
They from Louisiana, New Orleans. It sounds like you can hear their accent.
Mm-hmm.
She is tough as nails.
Uh-oh.
You think I don't know if you, man.
So you think we're being critical?
Oh my God. Oh my God. My wife and everybody was sitting there. I can't repeat something. But I just remember her saying, like, I can't wait till we get back to this room. So we in the crowd was just like, it's okay, mama. Like, he gonna get it back. He good. So we could try to calm her down. So I didn't see him have a game like that again.
He did. Hey, you're right. After that game, hey, he was pretty much golden the rest of the way. Like, you're right.
she is the real deal. And once I saw what I saw though was like the family of accountability and the hard work that he comes from. Like she was not playing games. And so I'm like, ooh, but that kind of reassures you in a sense, because it's like, you ain't got to hear from fans, or you're going to hear straight from the closest person to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what accountability look like, so I'm pretty sure he was accountable. I do think I want to see more than just deep threat. Like you said, be the guy.
Yeah.
I want to see a well-rounded guy.
Me too.
I want to see a guy catching drags across the middle and doing post corners and kind of chopping them up with his routes instead of just speed and length, and athleticism. I want to see the full, and I think he can do that.
Me too. I think so too. And let's go ahead and talk about the other guy that should be another really deep threat on the other side, opposite Shropshire, and that's Taishan Palmer. I mean, and this was a guy that, he really kind of came on late. You look at that bowl game against BYU, he had 3 catches for, almost 48 yards. I mean, he looks really good. This was a guy that was really good in JUCO. He came from, I think it was Snow Community College. This is a guy that I really expect big things out of. And I know the coaching staff, they see it every day in practice. Like they expect him to kind of take it over this year, have a really big year. He came on a little late last year, but I think this year you can expect to see a lot more out of Taishan Palmer.
Right. And that was kind of my question, was like, what's the pick and order? What are the weapons? What are we looking at? Because I wondered if you could help me out with this, because you got Taishan Palmer, then you got T.J. Jones, then you got Samario Rudolph, and then you got Ryan Davis. Then I hear a lot about Fred Farrier.
Yes, we'll get into him.
Yeah. And then and what about the guy that then I hear about Jordan Palmer too. And then what about the transfer? We had Dexter Boykin.
Yes. From UNA.
From UNA. He was supposed to be a big time get for us, and he had elite size. So I was like, we have a lot of talent there.
We do. Well, we just mentioned the deep threats, with Shropshire and Palmer, but let's go ahead and talk about those slot guys that you just mentioned. And I think it starts with Ryan Davis, man. I mean, this is, he's a redshirt junior. I like to call him Mr. Reliable when he's able to be on the field. Unfortunately last year he had some injuries last year. You go back to the Tulane game, he got dinged up in the BYU game. But this is a guy in critical third down situations. If 3rd down and 8, 3rd down 10, get him on a post route, get him on a slant, get him just finding somewhere in the zone coverage. He's going to catch that ball and get that first down. And when he is able to stay healthy, and that's my only thing. Like going back to fall camp last year, Steve loved Ryan Davis, and everybody at fall camp was talking about how Ryan Davis is going to be that guy. But unfortunately, he just kept getting bit by the injury bug. But this year, knock on wood, hopefully he'll be able to have an injury-free season and be able to be that Mr. Reliable that we all think he can be. So
has he been practicing yet? I did see where he was doing drills, but not like full pads. I don't know if he's been out there practicing.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. Last I heard that he wouldn't be able to get out there 100%. Like I think he's out there, but I'm not sure if he put on full pads Saturday. Maybe somebody listening can clear that up and get in my DMs, but I don't think he was. So I think they're kind of just taking it easy with him because he had to have off-season surgery as well, I believe. So, but I mean, hey, when he is on the field and when he's healthy, he does great things. So I definitely expect another, him to take that next step and stay away from the injury bug. But I expect great things this year.
Hey Steve or Evan or. Could you guys? Hey, could we get there? I know y'all can do it. We need to know what's going on with Ryan, baby. Let's get the article.
Yes, let's go. But hey, you mentioned Fred Ferry earlier. This is a guy, he's a redshirt freshman from Franklin County, Kentucky. I mean, this is a guy that multiple interviews, Coach Vincent, has been on the radio or streaming wherever. This is a guy that he keeps mentioning. He said, quote, that you expect him to make some big plays this year. So I really expect Fred Farrier to kind of come in right away and make some big plays. So definitely keep your eyes on Fred Farrier this year. You mentioned T.J. Jones earlier. I mean, the guy from Penn State. you really only saw him in some weird packages where they would like kind of flip the ball to him and he kind of like run around. I think you can expect to see him in more than that this year. I think they were just doing that to kind of, get him comfortable.
On the field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I expect him to make a bigger impact this year as well.
Yeah. I think he showed that blazing speed, that raw talent. And I think they was just trying to figure out, okay, how my biggest thing with the receivers and what they was trying to figure out with TJ Jones is like it's one thing to have the talent, but you have to be able to put it in the right places as coaches.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping with Henshaw and Vincent that they can mix it up really well. I know with Fred Ferrier, I'm really close with Rajay Johnson Sanders, the guy that he transferred to Troy. Yeah. And Rajay was talking to me and he was saying, man, Fred Ferrier. Like you said, Brian Vincent, this was just us talking. And he was just like, Fred Ferrier, man, that dude. And he was like, man, watch out. I believe he's I can't remember what number he was, but was it 13?
Sounds right.
Yeah, I think he was saying number 13, Fred Ferrier. Man, watch out, the dude. That's all he kept saying. He was like, he got it all. He got the hands, he got the shiftiness, he got the speed. Like he got next. So I've been hearing a lot about him just in general. So I'm excited to see what he does.
And I did look up. He's number 2, but I mean, number 2. Yeah, but I mean, but this is a guy that you do hear about, especially when the coach talks about you. Hey, you got to be showing something in practice.
Exactly.
So, and you mentioned Dexter Boykin. Coming over from North Alabama, a guy that set records at North Alabama. He can come in and contribute right away. And don't forget about Samario Rudolph. I mean, this was a guy. You go back to the Rice game back in 2020. I mean, we don't get to that Conference USA championship without those touchdowns that he got, and he earned that scholarship, with that game. So Samario is a guy that can come in, that should contribute more. Hopefully, you've got Luke Purser. This was a guy that mainly he's just played special teams, but this is a guy that can come in and play wide receiver, maybe at that slot. But there's a lot of other younger guys. You've got some young talent at wide receiver that, hey, there might have been a name that we didn't mention that might can contribute this year.
Yeah, like Jordan Palmer last year. I think he came over. He seemed to be he was a guy that was mentioned to me as well. As having really, really great hands, more of a position type of guy, from if I can remember correctly. So, yeah, and I think with Rudolph, I think Samario Rudolph, I think the thing we have to figure out with him is like you can see certain guys and see what their niche is, and I was just kind of wondering what is Samario Rudolph as a receiver, Is he the deep threat? Is he kind of that slot guy? Is he the dependable third down kind of guy? Is he a game breaker? I'm not really sure. If the coaching staff can help him figure that part out, I think it'll do wonders for his game.
Agreed. Well, our last position is tight end, and this is, I mean, honestly, Darren, this is still one position that I kind of struggle with, kind of looking at, what we've seen so far in camp, what we've heard from camp, what we've seen last year. Like, we kind of hit on it last week. I mean, it really stinks losing Garrett Prince and Hayden Pittman. Like, those two guys, those are probably the best tight ends. UAB's had a lot of great tight ends. I mean, you go back Kennard Backman, you go back to Everett.
Jeffrey Anderson.
Yeah, there you go. So UAB has had some talented tight ends, but Garrett Prince and Hayden Pittman, those two guys were just special. And I mean, you've got Terrell Mcdonald, who I mentioned last week. I still, even though he came in as a defensive guy, I think it can be a very serviceable tight end. Like, you go back to the spring game, he caught a couple. I know he at least caught one really good pass to start the spring game. But if he can just show that he's 100% reliable with his hands, I think he can be that guy. Now, other people have been saying that Malik Bryant, this is a guy that has always had injury problems. And shout out again to Steve. Steve's not a co-host on this pod, but we continue to bring up Steve Irvine's name. He just wrote a player feature on Malik Bryant. And this is a guy that really seems focused, on making an impact at tight end this year, of having previous injuries, from Miami, Ohio, and other things, coming in here hurt, being hurt last year. He played in a couple games in the 2020 season, But I mean, if he can get rid of that injury bug, maybe he can be that guy. You look at Dallas Payne. I mean, JUCO guy from Northeast Community College, where he was an all-conference guy last year in JUCO. I mean, could he be that guy? Darren, what are your thoughts on tight end? Because honestly, I think McDonald can make that step and be the serviceable tight end that we need, not just a run blocker, but somebody that can catch passes and be a threat in the passing game. But what are your thoughts on tight end?
Yeah, this is the one we got some figuring out to do. And when it comes to that, I don't like doing it just because of seniority. I don't like doing it just because, okay, you played some behind these guys.
Fair.
Here?
Yeah, no, that's fair point.
Yeah, okay. I thought for some reason I thought you said say here.
No,
I was so confused. Oh wait.
No, but you bring up a great point, Darren, because you, at least for me, my first thing is okay, who's got the most experience with this offense? And right off the bat, it's Terrell Mcdonald. I mean, the guy's played in 12 games last year. So,
yeah.
But I get what you're saying though, because just because you came in some jumbo packages,
right,
that doesn't mean that you're gonna come in and be the guy like Prince or Pittman. So I see what you're saying.
Is he? I don't know how he looks with the ball in his hand. Yeah, he can probably run the route or so. He can catch the ball. What does he make plays?
I wasn't going to bring this up, but he did fumble the ball in the 2020 season against Western Kentucky. So I wasn't going to bring that up, but he did have a fumble against Western.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. I just was wondering about his. I was wondering, is he a run blocking tight end? I don't know, and I hope he gets those. He gets the opportunity to prove himself in camp. I hope he gets the opportunity, because I'm not saying that what he is or what he. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just questioning it. And it's fair to have questions. So what I want to see is an open competition, because I see Brody Dalton. I don't care. I've never been the one to care about age, or I think experience is overrated at certain degrees, because it's about putting out the guy that's gonna, as long as they understand the offense, it doesn't matter how old or whatever. If they can understand the offense and play, it doesn't matter, So in my eyes, that's how I always thought. So if you got JC Sylvie coming in, and if he's the best guy, I don't care about this guy has played in this game. Well, this guy is going to make the plays, right? Or Brody Dalton, or So I want to see it open. Is Malik Bryant back to that? Steve, I read that article. Malik said he's 100%. He's feeling the best. He feels like he's back to himself. Before all of that, he's been dealing with these dang injuries forever, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So now he feels 100%. That's all over and done with. He done lost weight and got himself back to where he was. If he's that guy that I saw on that film coming into UAB, I believe that's the guy, But those guys will be able to battle it out. I hope it's a fierce competition. I hope it's open to all of them.
Yeah.
That way we can put the best tight end out there, from youngest from Dallas Payne to Brody Dalton to Malik Bryant to Terrell Mcdonald. But I do believe that Terrell Mcdonald deserves the first shot.
Yeah, I agree.
I do believe in that.
And let's face it, UAB is going to have multiple tight ends out there, especially when they go jumbo. You're going to have more than one tight end out there sometimes. So a couple of guys will be able to get that shot.
Right. And I was wondering with Henshaw and his ability, we was naming out all of these receivers. And if you look back at those offenses, you see multiple tight ends with Kentucky because of the team. But if you look back at when they were at Cincinnati, they had a whole bunch of receivers, and guess what? They utilized their receivers.
Right.
There is a world where we listen to tight ends roll because we don't have that guy. There's a world where that exists, where we do a lot of 4-wide with the running back, and we focused on our deep running backs and our receivers. So that could be a solution as well. But I believe in our guys. I think one or two of them will show that they are the guy to depend on.
Definitely agree with you, Darren. Well, guys, we are over an hour and 5 minutes, so
Woo!
we will go ahead and wrap this up. But hey, very great. I think a very thorough discussion that we've had with all of our position groups, Darren. I am excited to see what this offense does in the 2022 season. So, hey, next week we're going to get into the defense and special teams, which, I'm excited. Golly, looking at those linebackers, man, I'm so excited to talk about those next week.
Oh, don't get me started, man.
We can go a whole another hour now if we wanted to. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Blazer Victory podcast. As always, make sure that you're helping us spread the word. Number one, go buy a T-shirt or two. And help spread the word about the podcast. Tell another UAB fan about the Blazer Victory podcast. And if you are listening to us right now and you are not subscribed to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you're listening, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now to make sure you do not miss any future episodes. But on that note, guys, we'll wrap it up, and we'll be back next week to discuss the defense. But as always, go Blazers.
Oh, John.
Oh.
Hold on. I gotta do this real quick.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I've been seeing this trend. Blazer Nation, let's ride.
Let's ride, baby.
Go Blazers.